Peter Gay's got the top stories making the news this week. Peter Gay.
Hi, Edgerenko. Today, our top news comes from the most recent session of the House of Assembly. Remember those questions that we spoke about that the opposition leader was supposed to pose to the Premier? They finally came last week, Thursday it was. Now, regarding the question of how much money Cabinet has approved to be spent on the proposed expansion of the TB Lettsome International Airport, the Premier reported that $6.2 million has been spent so far on the development plans for that project, and that pertains to consultants and legal fees. And of course, he says the spending so far conforms to the protocols for effective financial management. Here he is.
Well, Speaker, no sums have been approved for the proposed physical expansion of the TB Lettsome Airport at this particular time. However, approvals were granted at various stages to engage specialist consultants and legal representatives to assist with the preparatory work associated with the project. And Speaker, as of 13 April 2017, $6,228,358.14 have been spent on consultants and legal fees and other costs in relation to the TB Lettsome Airport expansion. The details of the answer, Mr. Speaker. The amounts approved by Cabinet in relation to the TB Lettsome Airport expansion project are as follows. Name of firm from Indigo Engineering Caribbean Group Limited, Project Management Services, total of $360,000. Geotech Associates Limited, Geotechnical Services, $544,970. Port and Marine Limited, Support Services for Geotechnical Investigations, $458,796.32. WSP Canada Incorporated, Revenue Forecast, Procurement and Technical Performance, $148,597.73. PricewaterhouseCoopers, Business and Financial Advice, $1,023,380.85. Baker McKenzie, Legal Advice and Local Legal Services, $2,605,447.79. In addition, Madam Speaker, other services for project coordination, consultancy, dive services, and engineering designs were engaged from various entities, the total of which is $1,087,165.45. Individually, these fell below the threshold required for Cabinet approval.
Provided an update on how those monies, that $6.2 million, has been spent so far. The opposition leader sought further clarification on whether or not there was a tendering process for these monies that were spent, but the Premier said that the persons/companies who were selected, that was done based on their demonstrated competences and knowledge in the respective areas for which they were hired. Now, regarding negotiations with contractors for the proposed expansion, so far the Premier says there have been some technical discussions, but no formal negotiations so far. Edgerenko.
The problem still remains whether we are going to, or who we're going to give the airport contract to. I think that's still the main issue. The issue of the discrepancy in the bids, where you have one bidder, so much lower than the other, and some of the bidders are saying that they were two different bids. They weren't bidding on the same thing. As a matter of fact, one contractor said they were bidding on apples and oranges. And so I think that needs to be straightened out. Whether we need an airport or not, that's another issue that needs to be dealt with. So I think before we forge ahead with the airport project, there's still some issues that need to be resolved. Did we hear anything about any of those issues coming to the fore in the House, or did the Premier say anything about whether there was a question, or there was any longer question of whether we are going forward, or anything that tell us that we are definitely going forward, or we waiting, or or anything like that?
No, Adrian, his responses were limited to these specific questions that were asked. And so in terms of extra information, that was not to be had. But I think the entire territory is waiting to see if that pledge of having, more public consultations or discussions going forward is definitely going to happen, and sometime soon, especially since the wrapping up of the negotiations with the preferred bidder, that should have been done based on what the Premier said in December by March, the end of March, but that hasn't been done. So, as we go along, there are more questions that need to be answered as it pertains to what has been happening behind the scenes regarding this proposed development.
Well, hopefully more consultations are in our future.
All right, so Edgeworth Enka, the other issue on our table this evening in the top news segment is that of BVI Airways. So the opposition leader also had questions for the Premier regarding BVI Airways, which everyone knows is expected to be the territory's flagship carrier, particularly for that crucial Miami to Tortola route. The opposition leader wanted to know what has happened to the $7 million investment that the Premier committed to BVI Airways. The Premier revealed that between January and August of last year, that $7 million, in addition to $207,000 for the opening of a bank account, was disseminated to BVI Airways. And here are the details of that statement.
Madam Speaker, the disbursement of funds to BVI Airways were made as follows. 22nd of January 2016, $500,000. Company paid to BVI Airways Limited. The payments were all made to BVI Airways Limited. On the 11th of March 2016, $2,400,000. On the 5th of May 2016, $2,100,000. On 15th July 2016, $2,007,000. On 26th of August 2016, $200,000. A total of $7,207,000. The additional $207,000 is in relation to costs associated with the establishment of the required escrow account. Madam Speaker, the establishment of BVI Airways was based on a sound business case which involved assessment of cost of operations, expected tourist arrivals, and other relevant factors. The tenet of the BVI government's agreement with BVI Airways provided for that of a subsidy. This is very much like the subsidies that countries throughout the Caribbean give to airlines in order for them to get them to fly into their various destinations. My government went a step further in that the subsidy had been tied to certain milestones before actual commencement of service. Since BVI Airways was essentially restarting its operations and doing so with different and more complex aircraft and a new route. We continue to expect that it will be self-sufficient once it is able to go through a complete year of operations. And as previously stated, it is expected, according to agreement, that BVI government will cover the injection of cash within the term outlined in the agreement.
All right. Now, the other question the opposition leader sought answers from the Premier on was whether there had been any addendum to the initial agreement signed with BVI Airways in 2015. The Premier said yes, there was an addendum, but as it pertains to what exactly are the details of that addendum, he refused to disclose those details, citing that it could prejudice BVI Airways in its ongoing negotiations, and that addendum became necessary because the airline was having challenges with a line of credit, and what the addendum did do was provide for the transfer of funds and sharing of costs associated with the creation of an escrow account. Here's more from that statement.
Because BVI Airways are in negotiations with various entities at this time, it should be appreciated that it would be prejudicial to the operation to make this information public. However, this agreement and addendum reflects our obligations in respect to risk management and the protocols with respect to financial management as indicated previously.
There you have it, Edgeworth Enka. That's as much as the Premier would let go as it pertains to BVI Airways in the House.
Yeah, I never could understand what that means, that you can't release information because it will be prejudicial to negotiations. I never quite get that. But the question, I don't know why those questions about funding and so on, because we know we gave the airline the $7 million or $7.2 million, whatever it is. The question is when we're going to be able to hop on the plane and go to Miami and back, and how much
In
is
no
going
time.
and how much is going to cost. That's what
Yes.
That's what the question needs to be. And I was hoping that that question would have been asked. But
That question was asked,
Okay.
but the response from the Premier to that was essentially to repeat what BVI Airways officials have said, that the airline expects to be up and running once it gets its certification from the U.S. by June of this year. But as it pertains to the Premier and the government making any further definitive statements, the Premier is hands off on that. He says BVI Airways has said June. It's out of my hands as it pertains to that. Let's see what happens.
so June is the date that we're looking forward to.
That's what BVI Airways has said,
Okay, well,
at
that's
least up until this point.
That's only a few short weeks away, so that's good. I'm looking forward for that to happen and for us to be able to go directly to Miami and back. I think it's something that could have been done long ago, but that's just my
Critical to
Yes.
so many aspects of the territory.
It's critical to our tourism industry, and it should have happened a while back, but better late than never. So we're hoping to see that happen pretty soon.
Allow me to add one point to the question you were asking about monies. I'm not sure, well, we are all not sure what exactly it is that Mr. Foy knows. Why is it that he's asking
Asking
these
those
specific questions? So it will be interesting to find out what happens going forward in terms of him pressing the Premier and the government to release more information about what's happening behind the scenes regarding BVI Airways. Now, he did ask the Premier the specific question of whether or not any funding, equity, or investment of any kind additionally is or will be provided to BVI Airways. Now, the Premier stated that, at the end of the day, stated that BVI Airways has not requested any additional funding. However, regarding that specific question, the Premier's response was that it would be prejudicial to discuss these arrangements at this time. So it leaves you wondering what exactly is happening if you're going to say at one end that BVI Airways is not requesting any additional funding, but then to a specific question about whether or not amounts are being requested in any state or form, you're going to say you can't talk about it at this point. So what exactly is going on that we're still not getting the deets on? That's the question.
It make you feel like something is happening,
Is being held back.
that there will be further investment, right? Well, we'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for those updates and that report, Peter Gay. Good stuff as usual.
You're welcome. Let me just remind our viewers, of course, to check us out. That's the JTV Newsroom and its stories on YouTube, Facebook, and our website, jtvlive.net.